Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more in the Buddha's words. Yeah, we've got another long little piece here to read um, called The Decision to Teach. It's not broken down any further, but just one chunk. But we'll go ahead and get into it because it's fair length. I considered this Dhamma that I have attained is profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle to be experienced by the wise. But this population delights in attachment, takes delight in attachment, rejoices in attachment. It is hard for such a population to see this truth, namely, specific conditionality, dependent origination. And it is hard to see this truth, namely, the stilling of all formations, the relinquishing of all acquisitions, the destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, nibbana. If I were to teach the Dhamma, others would not understand me, and that would be wearying and troublesome for me. Thereupon there came to me simultaneously these stanzas never heard before. Enough with teaching the Dhamma that even I found hard to reach, for it will never be perceived by those who live in lust and hate. Those died in lust, wrapped in darkness, will never discern this abstruse Dhamma, which goes against the worldly stream, subtle, deep, and difficult to see. Considering thus my mind inclined to inaction rather than to the teaching the Dhamma. Then monks the Brahma's Sahampati knew with his mind the thought in my mind, and he considered, the world will be lost, the world will perish, since the mind of the Tathagata, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one, inclines to inaction rather than to teaching the Dhamma. Then, just as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm or flex his extended arm, the Brahma Sahampati vanished in the Brahma world and appeared before me. He arranged his upper robe on one shoulder, and extending his hands in reverential salutation toward me, said, Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. Let the Sublime One teach the Dhamma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are perishing through not hearing the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand the Dhamma. The Brahma Sahampati spoke thus, and then he said further, in Magadha there have appeared till now impure teachings devised by those still stained. Open the doors to the deathless, let them hear the Dhamma that the stainless one has found. Just as one who stands on a mountain peak can see below the people all around, so, O wise one, all-seeing sage, ascend the palace of the Dhamma. Let the sorrowless one survey his human breed, engulfed in sorrow, overcome by birth and age. Arise, victorious hero, caravan leader, debtless one, and wanderer in the world. Let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand. Then I listened to Brahma's pleading, and out of compassion for beings, I surveyed the world with the eye of a Buddha. Surveying the world with the eye of a Buddha, I saw beings with little dust in their eyes and with much dust in their eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, easy to teach and hard to teach, and some who dwelled seeing fear and blame in the other world, just as in a pond of blue or red or white lotuses. Some lotuses that are born and grow in the water thrive immersed in the water without rising out of it. And some other lotuses that are born and grow in the water rest on the water's surface, and some other lotuses that are born and grow in the water rise out of the water and stand clear, unwetted by it. So too, surveying the world with the eye of the Buddha, I saw beings with little dust in their eyes, with much dust in their eyes, with keen faculties and with dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, easy to teach and hard to teach, and some who dwelled seeing fear and blame in the other world. Then I replied to the Brahma Sahampati in stanzas. Open for them the doors of the deathless. Let those with ears now show their faith. Thinking it would be troublesome, O Brahma, I did not speak the Dhamma subtle and sublime. Then the Brahma Sahampati thought, the Blessed One has consented to my request that he teach the Dhamma, and after paying homage to me, keeping me on the right, he thereupon departed at once. I considered thus, to whom should I first teach the Dhamma? Then who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me, Alara Kalama is wise, intelligent, and discerning. He has long had little dust in his eyes. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to Alara Kalama. He will understand it quickly. Then deities approached me and said, Venerable Sir, Alara Kalama died 7 days ago, and the knowledge and vision arose in me. Alara Kalama died 7 days ago, I thought. Alara Kalama's loss is a great one. If he had heard this Dhamma, he would have understood it quickly. I considered thus, to whom should I teach the Dhamma? Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me, Udaka Ramputa is wise, intelligent, and discerning. He has long had little dust in his eyes. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to Udaka Ramaputa. He will understand it quickly. Then deities approached me and said, Venerable Sir, Udaka Ramaputa died last night, and the knowledge and vision arose in me. Udaka Ramaputa died last night. I thought, Udaka Ramaputa's loss is a great one. If he had heard this Dhamma, he would have understood it quickly. I considered thus, to whom should I first teach the Dhamma. Who will understand this Dhamma quickly? It then occurred to me. The monks of the group of 5 who attended upon me while I was engaged in my striving were very helpful. Suppose I taught the Dhamma first to them. Then I thought, where are the monks of the group of 5 now living? And with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, I saw they were living at Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana. Then monks, when I had stayed at Uruvela as long as I chose, I set out to wander by stages to Varanasi. Between Gaya and the Bodhi, the Ajivaka Upaka saw me on the road and said, "Friend, your faculties are clear. The color of your skin is pure and bright. Under whom have you gone forth, friend? Who is your teacher? Whose Dhamma do you profess?" I replied to the Ajivaka Upaka in stanzas. I am one who has transcended all, a knower of all, unsullied among all things, renouncing all, by cravings ceasing, freed, having known this all. For myself, to whom should I point as teacher? I have no teacher, and one like me exists nowhere in all the world, with all its devas, because I have no person for my counterpart. For I am the Arahant in the world. I am the teacher supreme. I alone am the perfectly enlightened one, whose fires are quenched and extinguished. I go now to the city of Kasi. I set in motion the wheel of Dhamma. In a world that has become blind, I go to beat the drum of the deathless. By your claims, friend, you ought to be the universal victor. The victors are those like me, who have won the destruction of taints. I have vanquished all evil states. Therefore, Upaka, I am victor. When this was said, the Ajivaka Upaka said, "May it be so, friend." Shaking his head, he took a bypath and departed. Then, monks wandering by stages, I eventually came to Varanasi, to the deer park at Isipatana, and I approached the monks of the group of 5. The monks saw me coming in the distance, and they agreed among themselves thus: "Friends, here comes the ascetic Gautama, who lives luxuriously, who gave up his striving and reverted to luxury. We should not pay homage to him, or rise up for him, or receive his bow and outer robe. But a seat may be prepared for him. If he likes, he may sit down." However, as I approached, those monks found themselves unable to keep their pact. One came to meet me and took my bow and outer robe. Another prepared a seat, and another set out water for my feet. However, they addressed me by name and as friend. Thereupon I told them, "Monks, do not address the Tathagata by name and as friend. The Tathagata is an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one. Listen, monks, the deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the Dhamma, practicing as you are instructed by realizing it for yourselves here and now Through the direct knowledge you will soon enter and dwell in the supreme goal of holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. When this was said, the monks of the group of 5 answered me thus: Friend Gautama, by the conduct, the practice, and the performance of austerities that you undertook, you did not achieve any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones. Since you now live luxuriously, having given up your striving and reverted to luxury, how could you have achieved any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones? When this was said, I told them, the Tathagata does not live luxuriously, nor has he given up his striving and reverted to luxury. The Tathagata is an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one. Listen, monks, the deathless has been attained from the home life into the homelessness. A second time the monks of the group of 5 said to me, Friend Gautama, how could you have achieved any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones? A second time I told them, the Tathagata does not live luxuriously, from the home life into homelessness. A third time the monks of the group of 5 said to me, Friend Gautama, how could you have achieved any superhuman distinction in knowledge and vision worthy of the noble ones? When this was said, I asked them, Monks, have you ever known me to speak like this before? No, venerable sir. Monks, the Tathagata is an Arahant, a perfectly enlightened one. Listen, monks, the deathless has been attained. I shall instruct you. I shall teach you the Dhamma, practicing as you are instructed by realizing it for yourselves. Here and now, through direct knowledge, you will soon enter and dwell in that supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. I was able to convince the monks of the group of 5. Then I sometimes instructed 2 monks, while the other 3 went for alms, and the 6 of us lived on what the 3 monks brought back from their alms round. Sometimes I instructed 3 monks, while the other 2 went for alms, and the 6 of us lived on what those 2 monks brought back from their alms round. Then the monks of the group of 5, thus taught and instructed by me, being themselves subject to birth, having understood the danger in what is subject to birth, seeking the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana, attain the unborn supreme security from bondage, nibbana, being themselves subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, having understood the danger in what is subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, seeking the unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, and undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. They attained the unaging, unailing, deathless, sorrowless, and undefiled supreme security from bondage, nibbana. The knowledge and vision arose in them. Our liberation is unshakable. This is our last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. But yeah, that's that piece. Like I said, it was a fair length. The stanzas luckily made it shorter. Let's see. Text 2:4. It kind of resumes the narrative that we read in text 2:3:1, which was divided by splicing the two alternative versions of the Bodhisattva's quest for the path to enlightenment. We now rejoin the Buddha immediately after his enlightenment as he ponders the weighty question whether to attempt to share his realization with the world. And we have this because he's like, if I try to teach, many will not understand. Many will struggle with this Dhamma. Who can I provide this knowledge to? Yeah. But the deity Brahma Sahampati is the one who comes down to say, Dhamma, Buddha, please go forth and teach this Dhamma. And he says, teach it to those with little dust in their eyes. Those who can see, who have good qualities. But yeah, and of course, the Buddha himself's thinking, who can I teach this to, though? And of course, he goes through a handful of names, and it's like, the deities are like, no, this individual died last week. And he goes on to the next, no, this individual died last night. And finally, he settles upon the monks of the group of 5. But yeah. And teaches them the Dhamma. But yeah, when trying to decide, Alara Kalama, they died 7 days ago. Udaka Ramaputta, he died last night. And so finally he's like, the monks of the group of 5. But yeah. And that's where we settle upon Buddha teaching. And at first they believe he's went backwards in his learning, because they believe, he lives luxuriously. He's giving up his path of striving to go back to living in luxury. And you could tell there's disappointment in them. There's like, we had hoped for so much better, but we believe he's given it all up. And so they address him as Gautama, as friend. And he has to explain, look, no, I haven't given up my striving. I've not went back to a life of luxury. And in fact, I've come to bring you the news of a Dhamma. And so he lives with them while teaching them this Dhamma. And they live off the alms, the donations given unto them to survive while they are learning together. in the book that they say alms round. So yeah. But that is that particular section we just read. I think there's just one more section in the book, or not the book, but the chapter. Yeah, section 5, first discourse. But yeah, he's going through a lot of things, learning a lot of things. And it's like some of the main things you can kind of pick out, you can tell. It's like, look, you're not always going to have the capability, if ever at times, to really change things. Existence goes on at the same click it's always had. It has this constant state: birth, aging, death. So it's like, look, all we can do is better ourselves. And often in that goal is to provide ourselves in the service of others. But yeah. So, yeah. But we'll go ahead and end this chapter there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.